The morning after the veil closed felt strangely quiet, as if the village itself was unsure whether it was safe to breathe again. People stepped out of their homes cautiously, exchanging looks instead of words. Smiles were forced, conversations brief. No one mentioned the whispers, but everyone remembered them. I stood near the window, watching the narrow dirt road slowly come back to life. Children returned to playing. Shopkeepers opened their doors, and smoke rose from kitchen fires. To anyone passing through, the village would seem normal again. Peaceful, even, but I knew better. Darkness does not leave, it only waits. Rafi arrived just before noon. His expression was serious, more guarded than usual. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. "There's something you need to know," he said quietly. I turned to face him. "About the forest?" He nodded. "About you." Those two words tightened something in my chest. "The elders met at dawn," he continued. "They believe the ritual worked, but not completely." I frowned. "What does that mean?" Rafi hesitated, then spoke with care. "When the veil closes suddenly, it doesn't just trap what's outside. Sometimes it leaves traces behind. Marks. Connections." I felt a familiar chill creep up my spine. "A connection between what?" I asked. Rafi met my eyes. "Between you and the other side." Before I could respond, a sudden sharp pain pulsed through my head. I grabbed the edge of the table, steadying myself as images flashed before my eyes. Trees bending unnaturally, shadows moving against the wind, and a distant figure standing just beyond the forest line. Watching, the pain faded as quickly as it came, leaving me breathless. Rafi stepped forward. "You felt it, didn't you?" I nodded slowly. "I saw something." His jaw tightened. "That's what we were afraid of." Outside, a cold breeze passed through the village, rattling doors and shutters. For a brief moment, I could swear I heard my name carried within it. Faint, distant, almost curious. Whatever had been sealed away was no longer trying to force its way in. Now, it was trying to reach me. And somehow, deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of a much greater reckoning. The visions didn't stop after that day. They came without warning, sometimes while I was awake, sometimes in dreams so vivid they felt more real than the world around me. I would see the forest from above, its twisted paths glowing faintly, as if something beneath the soil was breathing. Rafi said it was a side effect of the connection. A door had closed, but a window remained open. Why evening? The elders summoned me to the old meeting hall. The building stood at the center of the village, its wooden pillars darkened by age and smoke. Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil lamps. Every face turned toward me as I entered, and one spoke at first. Then the eldest among them, a man with a long white beard and eyes clouded by time, broke the silence. "You survived what others did not," he said. "That alone makes you important." I didn't like the sound of that, he continued. "Long ago, there were people known as walkers. They could move between the edges of worlds without opening the veil. They were guardians and warnings." A murmur spread through the room. Rafi stood near the wall, his gaze fixed on the floor. The elder raised his hand for silence. "We believe the forest recognized something in you. Not weakness, not fear, awareness." My heart pounded. "You were saying this happened before," I said. "Yes," the elder replied, "and it never ended well." A cold truth settled over me. "So what do you want from me?" The elder's eyes locked onto mine. "To learn," he said, "before the forest decides to teach you itself." The lamps flickered violently, shadows leaping across the walls. For a brief second, I saw the same tall figure from my vision reflected in the polished wood of a pillar. When I blinked, it was gone, but the message was clear. Whether I wanted it or not, the story had shifted, that I was no longer just surviving the darkness, that I was being prepared for it. The elders decided I would not leave the hall alone that night. Two villagers walked beside me, their steps quick and nervous, as if the darkness itself might listen if we slowed down. Even the torches felt weaker than usual, their flames bending in directions the wind didn't touch. When I reached my room, exhaustion finally caught up with me. My body wanted sleep, but my mind refused to rest. Every shadow looked deeper, every sound sharper. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. That was when I felt it a pull. Not physical. Something deeper, like a memory that wasn't mine, being gently tugged awake, and eyes closed on their own. Suddenly, I was standing in the forest again. But this time I wasn't afraid. The trees stood still, their branches no longer twisting aggressively. Pale light filtered through the canopy, illuminating a narrow path that hadn't existed before. I followed it without thinking, my feet moving as if they already knew the way. To the end of the path stood a stone circle. Ancient, cracked, and half buried in earth. Symbols carved into the stones glowed faintly. The same symbols I'd seen in the temple, but a figure stood at the center. Not fully shadow. Not fully light. It looked at me. And for the first time, I felt understanding instead of fear. You can hear us now, it said, its voice calm, layered, neither male nor female. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. You were not chosen by accident, the figure continued. You stood at the edge and did not turn away. The forest around us seemed to breathe. We do not cross without reason, it said. And you are becoming a reason. The ground beneath my feet began to crack, thin lines of light spreading outward from the stone circle. I felt heat and cold at the same time, power and restraint balanced together. Remember this place, the figure said. You will return. My eyes snapped open. I was back in my room, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. But something had changed on my palm, glowing faintly, was the same symbol from the stones. The forest hadn't just spoken to me, it had marked me. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight spilled through the window, warm and ordinary, yet the symbol on my palm refused to fade. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat beneath my skin. I wrapped my hand in cloth, unsure whether I was hiding it from others or from myself. The village felt different now. People looked at me longer than they used to. Conversation stopped when I passed. It wasn't fear exactly, more like uncertainty, as if no one knew whether I was still one of them. Rafi found me near the well. He noticed the way I kept my hand hidden. It happened, didn't it? He asked quietly. I nodded and slowly unwrapped the cloth. The symbol glimmered in the daylight. Rafi inhaled sharply. The elders were right. About what? I asked as he lowered his voice. The walkers didn't just guard the boundary. They became part of it, living anchors between worlds. I stared at the mark. You're saying I'm turning into one of them? Not yet, he replied. But the process has started. Before I could respond, a loud horn echoed across the village, long and urgent. The warning signal. It hadn't been used in years. People rushed out of their homes. Children were pulled inside. Doors slammed shut. From the eastern edge of the village, a mist began to roll in. Thick, gray, and unnatural. It crept along the ground, swallowing fences and trees as it moved. That's not normal fog, Rafi said, his voice tense, and I felt the symbol on my palm grow warmer. With it came understanding. It's searching, I said. Rafi turned to me sharply. Searching for what? For me. The mist reached the first houses, pressing against walls like a living thing. Within it, shapes moved, slow, deliberate. Watching, the elders gathered in the open square, their faces grim. One of them stepped forward and spoke the words I'd been dreading. The forest is testing you. My heart pounded, but I didn't step back. How do I stop it? I asked. The elder met my gaze. You don't, he said. You face it. The mist crept closer, and for the first time, the darkness didn't feel like an enemy. It felt like a question. The mist wrapped around the village like a living shroud, thickening with every passing moment. Faces blurred in the gray haze, and voices became muffled echoes. Yet, through the swirling fog, I could feel it, an almost electric awareness, like the forest itself was reaching out, probing for a response. Rafi stood beside me, his eyes scanning the shadows, ready but cautious. The elders formed a circle in the center of the square, murmuring prayers that mingled with the cold air. I clenched my fists, the symbol on my palm now glowing softly, a small beacon in the darkness. Suddenly, from the depths of the mist, shapes emerged, tall, slender figures, their outlines shifting like smoke. They moved silently, eyes glowing faintly, watching but not attacking. The elder spoke again, voice steady despite the tension. They're the Watchers, guardians of the veil. They come not to harm, but to judge. A chill ran down my spine. Point one of the figures stepped forward, its gaze locking onto mine. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, without words, it raised a slender hand and touched my forehead. A rush of images flooded my mind. Ancient rituals, forgotten battles, the delicate balance between worlds. When it withdrew, I gasped, overwhelmed but strangely calm. The Watcher nodded once and melted back into the mist. The elders looked at me expectantly. You have been chosen to carry the burden, the elder said. The veil needs a guardian. The forest has marked you, and the Watchers have accepted you. Rafi placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me. This is only the beginning, he said quietly. That I looked at the village shrouded in mist, then at the glowing symbol on my palm. Fear was still there, but now it was joined by resolve. The darkness was no longer just a threat. It was my destiny. The weight of the elder's words settled heavily on my shoulders. I was no longer just a villager caught in strange events. I was a guardian of the veil, a bridge between worlds I barely understood. Rafi helped me back to his home, where his mother prepared a small altar covered in herbs and candles. The scent of burning sage filled the room, weaving through the tense silence. We must strengthen your spirit, she said softly. The veil will test you again, and this time, the challenges will be greater. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. As the night deepened, I sat cross-legged before the altar, feeling the cool stone beneath me and the flickering light dance on the walls. Rafi began a quiet chant, words ancient and unfamiliar, but somehow comforting. His mother joined in, their voices weaving together, creating a shield of sound around me. The symbol on my palm glowed brighter, warmth spreading through my veins like wildfire. Suddenly, images flashed before my eyes, visions of battles long past, of walkers standing between light and shadow, of sacrifices made to keep the balance. I gasped and clenched my fists, grounding myself in the present. The chanting slowed and faded. Rafi opened his eyes and smiled gently. You are ready. But remember, the path will not be easy. I looked at my glowing hand and whispered, I have to face it. Outside, the wind howled softly, carrying with it the distant call of the forest. The veil awaited. The following morning, a heavy fog lingered over the village, wrapping everything in a thick, silent blanket. The usual sounds of life were muted. Footsteps slowed, conversations hushed, and even the birds seemed to hold their breath. That I stepped outside, the cool dampness clinging to my skin. The symbol on my palm still glowed faintly, a quiet reminder of what I had become. Every glance I caught from the villagers was weighted with a mix of fear and respect. Rafi met me near the old well, his face grave. The forest is restless, he said. The veil hasn't fully healed yet. The Watchers warned us that the balance is fragile. I nodded, feeling the unease twist in my stomach. As we walked through the village, the mist seemed to pulse around us, shifting unnaturally, as if alive. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath my feet, and a sharp crack echoed through the air. From the edge of the forest, a fissure opened, glowing with an eerie blue light. Rafi's eyes widened. The veil is tearing. Without hesitation, I stepped forward. If it breaks, what happens to us? The worlds could merge. Chaos would spill over, he said, voice tight. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle firmly on my shoulders. This is no longer just about protecting the village, I said quietly. It's about protecting everything. The forest around us seemed to watch, silent and waiting, and I knew the real test was only beginning. The fissure in the forest pulsed with a strange energy, casting eerie shadows on the twisted trees. The air smelled of ozone and damp earth, heavy with the promise of something ancient awakening. Rafi and I moved closer, cautiously stepping over roots and rocks. The symbol on my palm burned warmer, as if reacting to the energy leaking from the tear. As we reached the edge, the blue light brightened, revealing glimpses of another world beyond. Dark skies streaked with unfamiliar constellations and landscapes twisted in impossible ways. "This is the other side," Rafi whispered, voice barely audible, "where the veil thins to nothing." I peered into the crack, the cold air from the other side brushing against my face like a warning. Suddenly, a shape darted through the opening. A creature, both shadow and smoke, with eyes that gleamed like embers. It hissed and lunged toward us. But before it could reach, I held up my glowing palm, but a sudden pulse of energy surged from the symbol, pushing the creature back with a force it hadn't expected. Rafi caught his breath. "The veil's power is inside you now." The creature retreated, melting into the darkness beyond the fissure. I exhaled, heart pounding. The forest was alive with tension, the balance fragile as ever. "We have to seal it," I said firmly. Rafi nodded. "But to close the veil completely, you'll need to face what lies beyond." A silence fell between us, heavy with unspoken fear and determination. Whatever was waiting on the other side, I knew one thing for certain: I couldn't turn away now. Night had fallen by the time we returned to the village. The stars above were distant and cold, but the tension in the air made it feel as if the darkness was pressing down closer than ever. In the safety of Rafi's home, we gathered the items needed for the sealing ritual: the herbs, the ancient scrolls, and a vial of shimmering liquid. His mother moved with quiet urgency, her face etched with worry. "This ritual will bind the veil for a time," she said softly. "But it requires a sacrifice, not of blood, but of something far more precious." I looked at her, heart pounding. "What sacrifice?" She met my gaze. "Your trust. You must face the unknown without fear, without doubt." Rafi handed me the vial. "Drink this when you're ready. It will open your senses to the other side." I took a deep breath, the weight of what lay ahead settling heavily on me. Outside, the forest whispered, a low, mournful sound that seemed to call my name. I nodded slowly. "I'm ready." As the liquid slid down my throat, my vision blurred, colors shifting and twisting. The room faded, replaced by a swirling vortex of light and shadow that I found myself standing at the edge of the fissure once more. But this time, I could feel the pull of both worlds, a delicate balance on the edge of breaking. The forest was silent now. Watching, waiting, I took a step forward, and the real journey began. The moment I crossed the threshold, the world around me fractured into shards of light and shadow. Time lost meaning as I drifted between the realms, suspended in a place that was neither here nor there. Visions flashed before me. Faces from the past, battles fought long ago, and whispers of forgotten promises. I felt the weight of the walkers who had come before me, their strength and sacrifices flowing through my veins. The voice echoed in the distance, clear and commanding. "You have been chosen to protect the balance." From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in light, neither friend nor foe, but a guide. It extended a hand, and I took it without hesitation. Together, we moved through the shifting landscape, learning the truths hidden beyond the veil. I saw the delicate threads that held the worlds apart and the forces that sought to unravel them. When I finally returned, dawn was breaking over the village. The symbol on my palm had dimmed but remained, a constant reminder of my new purpose. Rafi waited for me outside, hope and worry in his eyes. "You made it," he said softly. I nodded, feeling both stronger and more vulnerable than ever. "The veil will always be fragile," I said. "But as long as I stand guard, we have a chance." The forest stirred behind us, alive with unseen eyes, and I knew the battle was far from over. But I was ready.